This episode is brought to you by United Airlines. What's new with United? New and redesigned planes with things like larger overhead bins with room for everyone's roller bag, power outlets at every seat, screens at every seat, and the ability to connect your Bluetooth headphones to those screens. Plan your trip today at united.com or on their award-winning app. Final delivery schedule subject to change.
For many Americans, hopping on a flight or taking a cross-country road trip may be out of the budget this summer. Across the board, hotel, airfare, and rental car prices are all at a record high. According to personal finance firm NerdWallet, flight prices have risen 10% from last summer's already pricey fares. Hotels are up 19%, and rental cars have jumped a whopping 50% from 2019. High demand mixed with inflation are just a couple of factors feeding into these exorbitantly high rates. So, if you're stuck in your town or city this summer, find the silver lining. Sometimes you'll be surprised with what you discover when you slow down and take a staycation in your own hometown.
Getting out even into your own neighborhood and giving it a second look, looking at things with new eyes, can give you that thrill of discovery that we love about travel, and that it can be so exciting to see something you haven't noticed before and take the time to look it up afterwards. If you see like a weird sculpture or a really cool looking building, just look it up. You might find a secret in your own backyard.
That's Jessica Mlynarek, a Chicago resident, writer, and author of Secret Chicago, a guide to the weird, wonderful, and obscure. Mlynarek is a big advocate of finding the lesser-known spots throughout an area that really showcase the history, arts, and people of the region.
I love to just go to another neighborhood and get off the main commercial street and go onto a residential street and just walk and look at the architecture. Might look different there than it does in your neighborhood. And, oh, look, here's a historic district that I never knew about. And if there's a plaque, I love a plaque. I love to read those, discover what happened there that you weren't aware of. And it can be, across town or a few blocks away. Just take a different route on your normal walk or something.
One upside this summer is that gas prices have dipped by 25% compared to this time last year. So if you're in a suburb or rural area, consider taking a mini road trip to the next town or region over. You might be surprised by some of the new spots you'll find. Mlynarek herself has spent more than a decade adventuring throughout the city of Chicago and its many vibrant boroughs. Over the years, she's kept a running list of the most interesting, obscure, and noteworthy spots. But aside from venturing out on foot, how'd she narrow in on what spots were worth her time?
I started by mapping out the places that I was familiar with or had written about or, was curious since I moved to the city. And I looked for the holes in the map of the neighborhoods that I wasn't as familiar with. And I reached out to people in those communities, so like historical societies, bloggers, neighborhood leaders, and I, would just go sit at a bar and talk to the bartenders because they know so many of the neighborhood secrets. So yeah, it's just such a city of neighborhoods, and I really wanted to feature that and to get people curious to go across town and see something new to them, because so often I hear, from my own friends that, oh, I've never been over there and I don't know, I need an excuse to go. So I'm trying to give people that excuse to check out something new in kind of a scavenger hunt format.
It can definitely feel out of place to venture into a new area, but that's part of the ride. Sometimes the unknowns are what make the experience interesting. Uncovering landmarks or events that paint a picture of what the area looked like 50 or 100 years ago can bring an entirely new perspective. For instance, when most people think about Chicago's music scene, they point to jazz or the blues. But did you know that gospel music was actually born in the 1930s on the city's south side?
It was created here at Ebenezer Baptist Church by an artist named Thomas Dorsey, who, was a musician, and he toured as a blues pianist going all over the country. And after he had a tragic family incident where his wife and son died, he channeled his feelings into music. So he kind of mixed the church music with some of the blues that he was used to and started a whole new style. And he was I think the music director at the Ebenezer Baptist Church when he started writing gospel music. But not only that, the whole publishing industry around gospel music was started in Chicago, and many gospel stars came from Chicago, including Mahalia Jackson and Clara Ward. So there's this whole gospel music legacy that, I knew it was in Chicago, but I didn't know that it all started here.
Another interesting but hidden part of the city's history is up north in the Loop. You might be familiar with Chicago's past as a major meatpacking hub during the 19th and 20th centuries. Over that period, hundreds of millions of livestock were shipped to Chicago's Union stockyards and transported through intricate tunnels that you can still visit today.
There was a guy back in the 1800s who bought some land. He was a farmer, and he started selling his land off a few decades at a time. But he wanted to keep the rights to get his cows to pasture. And pasture at that time was around the Board of Trade, if you can believe that. So he kept the rights to a path. I think it was like 10 feet wide. And over time, as land sold to other owners, that was included in the rights. So eventually a hotel was built over the path, and it was decided in the court that, they could build a hotel there, but they had to keep the path. And there's not many cows walking through it now. I think in the 1930s, there was like a publicity stunt where they walked a cow from the stockyards through it, and the mayor was there and all kinds of stuff. But there is a path, and you can still find it.
Sometimes it's the unremarkable doors or walls that hold the most interesting secrets. Another example of this is the Tribune Tower in Chicago on Michigan Avenue. As you walk past the historic building, you'll see artifacts from around the world built into its exterior walls. Among the items are chunks from the Great Wall of China and the Berlin Wall, even stone from the Taj Mahal. But behind these pieces is a bigger story, says Mlynarek.
Robert McCormick, who was the publisher of the Tribune, started this trend when he was visiting ruins of a cathedral in Belgium during World War I. And he took a piece of the rubble and he brought it back, and then he started kind of a competition with all of his employees to bring things back. And, most were taken legally. Some were, I think, secreted out in a not so legal way. And there's things from all over the world, and it's so funny. You can, again, walk right by it all the time, and when you stop and think about, here's a piece of the pyramids or the Parthenon, and how did it get here? Why is it here? That's really what I wanted to dig into.
Oftentimes, taking a closer look at a statue or mural can unveil a larger story. Are you familiar with the baseball team, the Chicago Cubs? Their famous blue and red C logo can be traced back to the Chicago Athletic Association, which created it first. Today, the CAA is an upscale hotel on Michigan Avenue, but go back to the late 1800s, and it was an exclusive men's club for elite Chicagoans.
People like Marshall Field and William Wrigley were members there. That's where they would go do some sports and have some drinks and hang out. So the Chicago Athletic Association had a logo, and it looks very similar to the Cubs logo. I believe theirs is red and black. And when William Wrigley bought the Cubs team, he asked permission to repurpose the club crest and change it to red and blue for the team logo. I think that was in the 1930s. So if you go there today, they've done a great job reusing a lot of the original materials in the building. It's a beautiful, beautiful place to even just go walk around, even if you don't stay there, or just go have a drink. But there are a few places where you can see the original logo. So certain doorknobs will have the club's crest in it, certain stained glass windows that you might see throughout the hotel on different floors.
It's only if you stop and take a second that you'll connect the two logos together. Whether you live in Chicago or not, hopefully some of these exciting finds inspire you to get outside this summer and explore your area. It doesn't matter if you live in a city, suburb, or rural town. Each place has something unique to offer. You can get more info on travel resources, this topic, and our guest, Jessica Mlynarek, by visiting our website at viewpointsradio.org. This segment was written and produced by Amiro Zaveri. Studio production by Jason Dickey. I'm Gary Price. Coming up on Viewpoints.
If you can show a good money personality, one where you've got good values around how you acquire, how you use, and how you manage money, those patterns will be passed along generations.
Making your money work for you rather than the other way around. Then,
there's an algorithm called the RAVE algorithm, which is one of the main ones that they're using to do all of this AI voice cloning, which has kind of taken the internet by storm.
Will human musicians be a relic of the past? I'm Marty Peterson.
and I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more about upcoming shows and find a library of past programs on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and more information about our guests at viewpointsradio.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Viewpoints.
Pulling up to Mickey D's just for drinks? Oh yeah, that's me. Nothing extra, just perfection and a straw. Coming in hot for the coldest cups on the block. Because there are drinks. Then there are drinks from McDonald's.
Get a creamy Oreo frappe or McCafe smoothie for less with 20% off any purchase of $10 or more. Only on the app. Limited time only at participating McDonald's. Valid one time per day. Visit McDonald's app for details.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.